All right, class. So I threw together an example here for you because we're getting into a sticking point where this confuses a lot of people, and it's this issue of equals equals versus dot equals. So I think the best way to explain that is first understand what equals equals does with a variable. So let's do int x equals 7, int y equals 7. So what's happening here then when I do x equals y? I expect that to be true, but what's happening is in Java, this int x creates a storage location, and 7 is stored inside of that storage location. So when I do equals equals, I'm comparing what's stored inside of x with what's stored inside of y, and it's 7. And that's how all primitives work. So characters, ints, doubles, and booleans as well. So you're directly comparing with equals equals what is stored inside of that variable. Why that gets tricky is then now we're working on strings, and with strings we have still variables. So I have the variable str1, but what's being stored in that str1 is not the actual string. What's being stored is a reference or an address to the place in the memory that the string that we want is living. One of the reasons that happens is just to make sure that we have enough memory, we have enough size in that little variable to hold everything. So since strings and other objects can hold a lot of information, instead we just give a reference or an address inside that variable that tells us where to find the string that we want. So if you look at the code that I set up here, I have string1 is equal to the substring of this class constant, and it's the substring from 11 to the end, so it should just be foo. String 2 is doing the exact same thing. So in theory, they should be equals. They should be equal to each other. But what happens is when I run this equals equals test, it's going to be false, and it actually shows that down here. I already ran it. So the equals equals test is false because what it's testing to see if the addresses are the same. This is testing to see if the reference address is the same for both strings, and it's not the same because of the fact that I set these up completely separately. Dot equals, though, is actually testing what's stored at that address. So the dot equals test is actually a method that is testing to see if what is stored at the end of the addresses, or at the address, are equal, or are the same. Let's use the same language here, same for both strings. So again, I'll run it again just to show you it's still the same thing. False, so this is saying that the address is different. True, though, is saying that the contents are the same. So one kind of neat way I could play with that and just kind of show you is what if I did something like this, str1 equals str2. That line of code, in theory, should change the address that is stored in string 1 should be the same. So now in theory, what I should have done is I should have made it so that equals equals and dot equals will be true. This right here is because when I said string 1 equals string 2, I wasn't actually copying the string, I was copying the address. So let's go ahead and let's save and run this and see what happens. So now I'm true because of the fact that this code copied the address that was being stored. So now my address and my contents match. Get rid of that line of code, and I'm back to false true because now the addresses would be different. So hopefully that helps a little bit in understanding why strings need to use a dot equals method to test for equality, and equals equals isn't necessarily testing what you think.